Midnight in the Yukon. I've been a trucker for years, traveling the long hauls between Portland and Fairbanks regularly. It's a journey that has become second nature to me. But on this particular night, things were different. The weather had taken a turn for the worse, and the harsh winds and relentless snowfall made the road treacherous on top of the rocky roads in the Yukon of Canada. I knew I had to find a safe place to park and wait out the storm, but there were no rest stops or gas stations in sight. Just as the last light of day disappeared, I saw a faintly glowing sign pointing to a truck stop a few miles ahead. I felt a wave of relief wash over me as I turned onto the snow-covered road, hoping to find shelter and a hot meal. The road seemed endless, and the darkness was all-encompassing. The snowfall made it hard to see anything ahead, and I had to navigate with caution. As I finally approached the truck stop, it appeared almost ghostly, a run-down and isolated place tucked deep within the Yukon wilderness. Only a couple of other trucks were parked there, adding to the eerie silence that surrounded the place. Upon entering the truck stop, I immediately sensed an unsettling atmosphere. The dim lighting and the musty smell made the place feel strangely haunting. The old man behind the counter acknowledged me with a nod, but there was something in his eyes that spoke of unspoken stories and experiences. Despite my gut feeling, I decided to grab a quick bite to eat and then huddle in my truck for the night. As the storm raged from outside, I struggled to find sleep. The noises of the storm seemed to take on a life of their own. Whispers carried by the wind, creaking sounds from the nearby woods, and eerie laughter that seemed to come from nowhere. I tried to dismiss these unsettling feelings as mere products of exhaustion, but as the night wore on, they only grew stronger. The radio became my lifeline, my connection to the outside world. Yet, all I heard were cryptic messages and distorted voices, making me feel even more isolated and on edge. As the clock neared midnight, just as I was starting to drift into a restless slumber, a tapping sound on my truck window jolted me awake. My heart raced as I peered outside, but the storm made it nearly impossible to see anything clearly. I tried to convince myself that it was just a tree branch or an animal seeking shelter. Then, a sudden flash of lightning illuminated the surroundings for a brief moment, and I saw a shadowy figure slowly walking by my truck. Fear gripped me, and I fumbled for my phone, desperate to call for help. But there was no signal, and the figure stopped about 2 feet away from the door, sending chills down my spine. To my horror, more ghostly silhouettes emerged from the darkness. Their glowing eyes and unnaturally fluid movements terrified me. I locked the doors, hoping to keep them at bay. With trembling hands, I tried to start the engine and escape this nightmare. You know, when somebody is running from danger in a horror film and they get to a vehicle and the engine decides to stall out. Yeah, that happened to me here. I was trapped with these otherworldly beings, pressing against the windows, their haunting faces close enough to touch. Faint whispers grew louder, filling the cab with an eerie presence. I grabbed a flashlight, hoping its beam could offer some protection. To my shock, I realized these apparitions were not human at all. They were something far darker and malevolent. It seemed like they thrived on fear. In a state of terror, I retreated to the bunk of the truck, clutching a wrench for any semblance of safety. I held on tight, praying for the storm to subside and the morning light to break the spell. Yet, the night felt interminable, and reality blurred with horrifying visions. As the first rays of dawn finally pierced the storm clouds, the ghostly figures retreated back into the forest, leaving no trace behind. The wind and snow subsided, and I mustered the courage to step out of my truck, my heart still pounding from the night's terrors. As I approached the truck stop, it was in ruins, as if abandoned for years. The old man was nowhere to be found, and an eerie emptiness lingered. I couldn't explain what I had witnessed, but I knew I had to leave immediately. As I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something malevolent lurked in the Yukon wilderness. I kept this harrowing experience to myself, fearing that others might dismiss it as a figment of my imagination. Yet, deep within, I knew that something inexplicable and sinister had taken place on that fateful night in the Yukon. I vowed to never stop driving until I reached the safety of Fairbanks, leaving the haunting memories of that cursed truck stop behind me forever.